Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Movies, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by special guest, Sal Rodriguez.
Thanks, Jason. Happy to be here.
Hey, man. Happy to have you back, Sal, as usual. And having you back to do a bonus episode on our last episode of Let's Talk Movies.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting, huh?
And surprising. I figured we'd be
Surprising.
like on part 2, on part 3, on part 4.
I know, because we were exploring Friday the 13th, the original, 1980, just rewatched. I decided to revisit this franchise after many, many, many decades. So much fun. We explored the original movie. In fact, it was the uncut version is what I purchased. So I love how it's uncut. That's nice. Classic. Very fun, and we got into that and just how I was impressed with the filmmaking, and it was a great exploration. I highly recommend people check that episode out. But while I was in post, I was thinking, there's a scene in a movie that I'm also very fond of that references this movie and the franchise as a whole, because the first episode, our last episode about Friday the 13th, we also said the titles to all the other subsequent sequels because this franchise has probably had highs and some lows. And I tuned out at one point in time, and then they kept going, and I was learning about titles when we did our episode. So this other movie that I love has nothing to do with horror, Sal. No thriller, no horror aspects at all.
And yet it references one of the most famous horror movies of all time, and particularly not just horror. Horror is one thing, but slasher, and slasher is its own. Slasher is almost its own genre in and of itself. It's like a subcategory of horror, right? One of the most famous slasher horror films of all time.
I'll bring up the poster. There it is. A great poster, mind you. The silhouette of the body and has the bloody knife. It's really cool. Great poster.
Yes.
But the movie that came to mind, and I started thinking about it when I was editing our episode, was Kicking and Screaming. Not the Will Ferrell movie, 85. I fell in love with it right away. No one told me about it. There was no fanfare. I was a cinephile looking for movies like this. It's a witty comedy drama directed by Noah Baumbach. So I was watching his career, and most recently, he produced on Barbie because his very talented now wife, Greta Gerwig, directed Barbie and wrote Barbie. And I think he co-wrote, I should say. So he's also worked with Wes Anderson, and he's made so many other amazing movies. I should just do episodes about him, but I saw this movie, his first movie, fell in love with it, so I've been a fan ever since. It's a coming-of-age story. Here's exactly what it says. It follows the post-graduation struggles of a group of college friends who are reluctant to embrace adulthood. So they've graduated college, but they haven't really moved on with their life yet. And the college that they attended was Occidental College, or at least that's where they shot it. Yeah. So moving to LA and eventually moving to that area and walking that beautiful campus all the time with my two dogs separately over their lifespans, Brody and then Nico, I was always reminded of Kicking and Screaming, this is when Elliot Gould walks with his son and they're talking. And then it became very meta for me. And also 90210 was filmed at the Occidental College, as well as so many other things. The movie Clueless, I think scenes from Star Trek. So it's a beautiful campus. It's a smaller campus. Obama, our former president, went to school there for a short time. Ben Affleck, and I think Matt Damon may have gone, but Ben Affleck absolutely did.
Where is Occidental?
It's in Eagle Rock.
It's in Eagle Rock, yes.
So it's in Eagle Rock. It's right there by York and Colorado Boulevard. Very cool, beautiful campus, and this movie is what put it on my radar. It's literally just down the street from Pat and Lorraine's, where the opening scene from the diner in Reservoir Dogs is, and that's still standing. So I was researching, living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, watching movies. Where was that shot? So when I moved to Los Angeles, and you move around, or I did, I live in different areas a lot. And it was like, OMG, I'm going to have breakfast where they shot Reservoir Dogs. I'm walking this beautiful campus. So again, this movie really struck a lot of chords with me. It's very funny. Some of the actors and actresses moved on to lots of things. Parker Posey comes to mind, Eric Stoltz, many other actors. And it's a great movie, and it holds up well. But it's a movie without a bunch of cell phones, too. It's like predates all of that. So it's kind of fun to watch an older movie and be like, oh, wow, yeah, okay. When they said they had to be somewhere to meet somebody, they had to actually do it. So a lot of funny stuff. But in the movie, Sal, they play trivia. And it's a funny scene as they're trying to remember the names of all of the Friday the 13th. To that point, and that point in time, and they'll say it, there was only 9. Okay? There has since been 12 in all, which
Jason,
includes a remake.
Jason, this is a great test for a fan.
Totally.
Like, could a fan name all that? Okay, maybe a fan could. I love Hellraiser. Could I name all the Hellraisers? I don't think so. I don't
name all the Star Treks. Yeah, exactly.
No.
So before we play the scene, we'll do what we did in the last episode, and we'll go back and forth, ping pong back and forth, and say the names and the years, the subsequent years. Okay?
Yep.
And we'll start with the beginning, and I'll go first. Friday the 13th, 1980.
Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981.
Look at that 1 year turnaround.
Yeah,
they know they had a milk cow
that's
happening.
Impressive.
Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D, 1982.
Another year.
Yeah,
Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, 1984.
Saw this one in the theater, had Corey Feldman in it.
I like Corey Feldman, and I'm not embarrassed to say it.
I love him. I love him, so there you go. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, 1985.
Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, 1986.
Now, remember that one. That comes up in this. It's kind of a nice punchline to the scene. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, 1988.
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989.
Might be my favorite title. Da, 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 da. I love it. Everybody was taking Manhattan. And we talked about this on the last episode, but, the Muppets took Manhattan. The Gremlins 2 was shot in Manhattan. Home Alone 2, he's in Manhattan. So eventually a franchise has to wind up in Manhattan. Crocodile Dundee was there.
That's right. Yep.
I love it. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Is it? 1993.
They lie.
They lie.
Jason 10, also called Jason X.
Yeah.
2002.
Big jump there. Big jump in time. Now we have something that I didn't even know about when we did the last episode. I learned it in the notes, but Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. So now,
wait, Jason, you didn't know about Freddy versus Jason prior?
I may have heard something, but there's Alien versus Predator, so I'm so far removed from these franchises, but I was an early adopter. So when you start jumping the shark with these things, it's like, what do they even have against each other? So it's like, I don't understand. And, whatever.
It's kind of like a feral cat and a raccoon. Really, they just kind of ignore each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Friday the 13th, 2009. So what does that mean?
A remake.
Means a reboot. Yeah, okay.
A reboot.
Wait, a
never
remake of the original?
I don't know. I do not know.
Did I see this one? No, you know what? I think I did see this one. I did because Jason's buff in this one. Looks like he's been pumping iron.
Also a great documentary with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Pumping
iron. Pumping iron
so,
when you get the pump.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. And we said the years, just to give context. They're not saying the years. They're just trying to rattle off the first 9, because at the time of this movie, there was only 9. So this movie came out in 95, filmed in 94. So the last one would be Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Now, I tuned out on this franchise after the final chapter. I thought it was a great way to end it. I'm young, and I'm thinking, okay, that was it. What a ride. I'll revisit this franchise again. And then, bam, there's a new beginning. And I was like, oh, no. That's when I started to have that feeling of like, oh, they'll just keep going with things, right? And I was disappointed. And I was like a teenager, young teen. So that happened. But until then, I loved him. But I haven't revisited this in so long. So since our taping, our subsequent episode, I've now watched part 2. And I'm starting part 3. I don't have the 3D goggles, but I am watching it. So we're going to have to come back and do more. I know, totally lame. Although, even if I wore the goggles, Sal, I don't think much is going to happen on the screen.
Just wear them anyway, even if it doesn't do anything. Jason, this just reminded me of something. And because we have Freddy versus Jason, it reminds me of something they can do right now. I think it would be well received.
Okay.
You do a hybrid mashup of Friday the 13th. And Friday, you have Jason Voorhees versus Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. I would watch it.
Now we're talking. That makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense than Jason versus Friday.
Yeah, versus Freddy.
Jason versus Friday. No, Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's okay. I am now going to bring up this poster. There it is, kicking and screaming. Just a little shout out to this wonderful movie by Noah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it. I think you're bringing this to my attention today.
Well, I hope I bring it to many people's attention. I'll probably come back and do an episode just on this movie, but this came to mind, and I want to play this clip for you and our listeners and our viewers. Enjoy it. We'll talk after. We'll laugh. We'll cry. We'll try to make sense of it all, and we'll just go from there. Tell me if you're ready.
I'm all set.
You're all set. Okay.
Play. Nice. Hey, Skippy, what kind of a trick master are you anyway?
Hey, Chet, you want to ding in?
Oh, no, sir.
At my age, I find trivia too exhausting.
Okay, I'll go. Can you name me all 9 of the Friday the 13th?
Ding,
ding first.
ding. Okay, Friday the 13th 1, just Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th 2, Friday the 13th 3, and 3D. 4 the final chapter, 5 a new beginning, 7 is a new blood, 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan, 9 is Jason Goes to Hell.
High speed, Otis.
What the hell is 6? 6 Jason Sex and Cock.
No.
Time is up.
Max.
I'm pretty sure it's Jason Sex and Cock.
No. Max.
Jason Kills.
That's it.
There's no Jason
Well,
Kills.
something like that. We'll give it to him anyway. All right, next.
What do you mean
You
you'll
name
give
me
it to him
6
anyway?
TV shows from movies.
Ding.
You shouldn't even be trip masters.
Mash.
You're not one of us. Jason Kills is an idiotic title. They might as well call all of them Jason Kills. Jason Kills in every one of those suck-win movies.
Do you want me to take his points
Breaking
back?
Yes, I want you to take his
There is
points
no
back.
Jason Kills.
No.
Was Uncle Buck a TV show?
Will you shut up for a second?
Yes.
It's not Jason Kills. Is it?
It's Jason Lives. Jason Lives.
Who the fuck cares what Jason does?
Would you start?
Oh my God!
And
now
you mentioned Reservoir Dogs earlier. When was this movie made? 85?
95.
95. Okay, wait, was this after Reservoir Dogs?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think they took a cue from Tarantino.
It has that feel. It has that moving camera, feel witty dialogue, just different dialogue. A lot going on, like a Robert Altman movie. There's so much context. In fact, watching this and getting ready for it tonight, I haven't seen this movie in a few years. I've loved it forever. I even recognize things. Noah Baumbach, the director, is at the table next to them, and as the camera follows Stoltz, he has an interaction in a line. I'm like, I didn't even recognize it initially years ago, but now I know more who he is. And I was picking up things. In fact, while they're trying to solve the end here, which is funny, the one guy, he rattled them all off, and he just didn't know it was Jason Lives, right? He didn't say, he said goes to hell. I don't think he said the final Friday, but very good. But what was funny, as the scene continued, that character, who's great in the movie, jumped into another trivia. I know you didn't hear it that listening, because there's no way, there's a lot going on.
Oh, he started to add another one?
He went into another one that was movies that turned into TV shows.
Oh,
and I'm like thinking, holy cow. I mean, that was way before The Karate Kid, but he was like, MASH, Breaking Away, Weird Science, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this movie is rich with these types of things. But what a funny sequence.
Jason, was Remington Steele a movie first and then a TV show?
No,
or
it was
just
a show.
TV show only.
Just a show.
Well, now I'm thinking, well, what other movies became TV shows? MASH,
well, Chips later, but that was in reverse. That was a show that became a movie.
Okay.
But movies that became shows. MASH is one of the best ones because it had a super run as a show. But, well, anyway, let's focus on this for a second.
No, but now I'm going to be thinking about that later.
How funny was that, though? I love it. Jason sucks some cock. I'm pretty sure he sucks some cock. And then that one guy's like, Jason kills in every one of those succulent movies. They love it. And, of course, he's right. Jason Kills is a terrible title. And no one was buying it. And then she was, like, trying to give it to her boyfriend. Like, oh, we'll just give it to him anyway.
Now, wait, Jason, since we're talking about all this, one of the recent Halloween movies, Halloween Kills.
Oh, see?
So, sorry, good. Michael. Sorry, Michael Myers.
I also love the fact that my name is, like, so I have Jason Lives. I remember this when that came out. I was like, okay, that's cool. I'd already given up on the franchise, but I liked it. And I love Jason Takes Manhattan. But I love the end of this sequence. He's like, who cares what Jason does? It's so good, so good. So hopefully they continued their trivia and worked in the other subsequent titles, 10, Freddy vs. Jason, and the remake. And Sal, as we talked about before, the last one came out in 2009. Isn't it time for this franchise to come out with something new?
Absolutely. It's way overdue. In fact, I'm surprised because, I know a little bit about movies, this much.
Sure.
So they give a studio a license, but then they're obliged to make certain movies by a certain time. They're obliged to make so many movies within a time frame. Speaking of Hellraiser, as I mentioned earlier, some of the Hellraisers were not well received because they kind of threw them together because they were obliged to make the movie. So they kind of threw something together. Everybody hated it, but it maintained the license, and then they can do the next one. So I'm very surprised it's been this many years since 2009. We've got nothing Friday the 13th. Nothing.
Yeah, why not a sequel to this one? Now, the last one, maybe it didn't do well, so reinvent it again. There's a lot there you could do, but what you talked about before, and I highly recommend listening to that episode. It's a deeper dive. It doesn't have these characters. This is a franchise built off expendable characters.
Sure.
Right? And not the Expendables with Sly and all those guys. They live. And that's a great movie, a John Carpenter movie as well. But it's like they bring these people in. No one knows each other. They're camp counselors. There's never kids. It's always like before the kids, and then this mayhem ensues. Yeah. But only rarely do they go to the next movie, and sometimes when they go to the next movie, whoever it is, one person, they usually get killed off, and you just keep handing the baton off. So we don't have like these feelings like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. It just you're lacking that. But you could use it to your advantage and reinvent it. So I'm waiting for that to happen. But this was just a tacked on bonus episode, a chance to explore something funny and from another movie referencing something that we're talking about. So it was kind of meta, and I thought it was appropriate and a nod to another great movie.
No, Jason, screaming. I'm very, very happy to be here because one of the things I just remembered, and I just remembered this. So I was a kid, would go to summer camp every year. We'd spend a week in these cabins near Palm Springs, a place called Yucaipa, a place called Pilgrim Pines. We go there every year. Really, I loved it. Part of my childhood I really enjoyed. But I remember these movies were coming out around that time. So I remember thinking, like, to be appreciative of the counselors because being a camp counselor was a dangerous job.
Yeah, they're expendable. I'll be okay, but I can't get too close.
Yeah, Jason's not coming for me. He's coming for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty great. Or Jason's mom. Whatever.
Or Pamela.
is coming.
Or Pamela.
Well, that's all I got, Sal. So without further ado, sorry.
No, that's great.
I'll reset.
I really love this a lot. I love this. I love the tip of the hat. I love that we're giving a tip of the hat to a tip of the hat.
Exactly. 2 tips.
Meta. That's meta.
So without further ado, please enjoy
Friday the 13th.
So thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Movies podcast and the Let's Talk Movies YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving this show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com.